start again. I thought we better start before we get ourselves in trouble. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wrestling Forever, the alternative wrestling podcast with Billy Kirkwood. Hello, and look, there he is there, the number one YouTube Celtic podcaster. It's Ryan Fitzsimons over there. How are you, my friend? Are you well?
I'm good, and don't worry, this isn't me just sitting wearing my Celtic gear for the sake of it. I am channeling my inner CM Punk Clash at the Castle 2024.
Loving it.
I literally have this downloaded in WWE 2K24 as a playable attire because I am that sad. But it's good to be back, Billy. What an eventful week in wrestling. I mean, when we jumped on this call, the first thing I said to you was, it feels like an eternity since we last filmed together. Yeah. It hasn't been. It's literally been a week. But because there's been a Royal Rumble, because there has been the fallout of the Royal Rumble and all the forward planning and thinking into WrestleMania, it feels like months have gone by. And you know what? I'm really looking forward to getting tore into it today.
Thick and busy with news and everything else. So, of course, we take a little alternative look at it whenever you are. Don't worry, we're not running you through every second of Raw and SmackDown and wondering about, what's this dynamic and what's this demographic? No, you can do yourself an injury with a wire brush if that's what you're after. We are talking about what you want to talk about. And a couple of things I want to say. Royal Rumble, what did you think? Give a summation.
Look, listen, maybe contrary to a lot of the belief on social media, I enjoyed myself, man. I know that a lot of people are going to be angry about results at the Royal Rumble, who won both the men's and women's Royal Rumble, but I found myself walking away from it going, do you know what? I was pleasantly surprised at that. So we'll get into the kind of exacts and the fine details of it all, I assume, but I'm just going to put it out there right at the top of the episode. I'm certainly not as angry as some people are.
I'll be honest, it's almost my gnaw. If we're going to do I gnaw, it's almost my gnaw. It's like, what the fuck is all the hate for the Royal Rumble?
I did not expect us to come onto this podcast on the same page. I thought you would be one of the very outspoken haters of the results of the Rumble.
I have, first of all, remember what I was saying last year? A surprise would be nice.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah, that's exactly. And so I am right. Big thumb up for me, Jey Uso as the WrestleMania Royal Rumble winner. I'm completely. Who's more popular? Like I stood, so I was doing yoga last night, and I was put on. Because my ADHD gets the better of me, right? So I've literally got, this is how I do yoga.
Were you giving it some up and downs?
Man, fucking, boom, you should check my rankings, man. I'm in the top. I'm in three figures. I'm like up there with 300,000 people on the planet. I'm up there in like triple figures. I think it's just me. I think it's me and then the end of level boss. Which is but that's from years past. I'm just getting back into it. Don't let that fool you. But I literally have the app on, which is playing music in Spotify in the background, and I've got wrestling on the telly. I need everything coming at me in order to focus. That doesn't. Right. I know that doesn't make any sense.
You're like the opposite of like overload and different sensory issues. You're just what you want. You want all the sensory issues.
In the middle of that, it's like that bit in Saving Private Ryan. It's like, woo! I can almost focus that completely. Lots going on, man. Lots going on. But in terms of Jey Uso winning, I stood and I watched his entrance on Monday Night Raw.
Oh,
and I just sat there going like, fuck me, that's a moment. That's a moment right there. That is, fuck me, Jey Uso, mate, is your guy.
I watched that entrance, right? And listen, I've been on the record on this channel a few times talking about how I'm not a huge Jey Uso fan. I'm not the biggest Jey Uso fan, and if you told me maybe even a month ago that Jey Uso would win the Royal Rumble, I would have fell asleep. I would have been so annoyed.
I thought he was lost. I thought he was a bit lost, to be honest.
Yeah, same. So did I. I thought they really kind of screwed him up with the whole IC title stuff and dragging him back into the bloodline without any clear direction. I didn't know what they were doing with Jey. I just wasn't a huge fan of him, but he's starting to win me over. The Royal Rumble win has certainly helped me, I don't know, get more unified, if you like. But what I will say is that entrance, right, on Monday Night Raw, when he comes out, the entrance lasts a good 10-15 minutes almost. The crowd are going insane. I'm not exaggerating when I say this, Billy, and some people who hate Jey Uso might think I am exaggerating. I can't remember a wrestler being that over in a long time, and I genuinely, I can't think of anybody who's been that over.
It's Daniel Bryan during the Yes Movement.
Yeah, probably.
I stood there and I watched, and I did actually go, good for you, mate. Like, actually, good for you. There's a guy that I think somebody put up a video, and it was him entering the 2010 Royal Rumble to virtually no reaction. No reaction. And then I looked at that and I went, bloody hell. I mean, Uncle Paul knows what he's doing. And we had sat and we had argued and went, here's 5 or 6 or 7 people who could win the Royal Rumble. And we looked past you, so we looked straight.
I think everybody would have looked past you, so Billy.
Straight past them, apart from Jey Uso fans, like die-hard Jey Uso fans. So I thought it was great. So I don't get the hatred. Charlotte Flair coming back and winning, I wasn't as on board with. I'll say that much.
Well, you did say that. You said that. I remember that last week in the preview when I predicted Charlotte to win the Rumble.
Yeah.
I remember you saying that it wouldn't do much for you, and I can see why.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Charlotte fan, so I'm not too bothered by it. Granted,
I'm kind of torn because I think she is the measuring.
Oh, she's amazing.
I think she's the franchise.
Yeah, she's arguably the greatest woman to ever do it, isn't she?
Yeah.
But they now find themselves in a situation. I think this is the biggest problem for me, Billy, with the Rumble winners, right? It's not the Rumble winners themselves. Because as you've already mentioned, Jey Uso, I love the element of surprise. I can now go into Royal Rumbles every year with Triple H booking them and going, well, we don't know who's going to win. Because he's done it. He's fully comfortable. Yeah,
so new faces.
The problem for me isn't the winners themselves. It isn't Jey Uso and it isn't Charlotte Flair. The problem for me is what happens next, because Gunther said it himself as a joke in his promo on Monday, and I think he said it because the WWE know it themselves. Gunther versus Jey Uso isn't, I think, a WrestleMania match that we're all dying to see. Yeah. Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley, I don't think is a match that right now many are dying to see. Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton, I think that could be really good. I think they should try and roll with that. But as for Jey Uso, it's a question of, right, where does he go next? What is the story? And can they make the story good enough to last all the way to WrestleMania? Because remember, WrestleMania is later this year.
Yeah.
So for both Charlotte and Jey, that's the biggest task now. It's to make these stories last and make them good enough.
This was my take, and I'm not here to talk anybody around. If your reaction was you didn't like it, I thought the event itself was great. I thought the Royal Rumble itself as a match was all right. There's been better Rumbles, but I thought it was all right.
I really enjoyed the men's one. I actually really enjoyed both, but I think that they've done well with the elements of returns in the women's, and then I don't know about you, but I love the speed stuff. Even though I can't stand them and I hate them, but watching them get speared.
That boy took a spear.
They did.
That boy took a spear, and I was like, "Fuck me!" It's like, holy.
Surprised no did.
That was a football tackle, American football tackle.
Oh,
with no pads, no protection, and Rob Breaker probably getting told by a couple of the boys, maybe even his dad and his uncle in his ear, you fucking spear that motherfucker out of his boot. I don't want no Bobby Lashley spears. Sorry, Bobby Lashley fans. His spears are shite. Grow up.
Most people
they're shite. They're awful. They're awful. But the difference is this time than maybe any other Royal Rumble situation. WrestleMania is a wee bit later. We have got a lot of story to build. We have got a lot of story to tell. And we have somewhere in the region of 6 to 8 hours of wrestling every single week, not counting pay-per-views. We've got all the time in the world. You care about Jey Uso now, so we want you to really want him knock that bastard off when it comes to the championship. And that is the old story with boxing. That is the old story of building up the popular. This is Rocky. This is Rocky. Everybody wanted to see Rocky beat Apollo Creed. Everybody wants to win.
This is one of these situations where I think WWE know what they want to do. Clearly, they've got a plan, and clearly it's leading to something. I mean, you look back to the first episode they were on Netflix. I remember we done the podcast going, did Jey beating Drew make an awful lot of sense? Should Drew not have won that? It now makes sense because Jey's went and won the Royal Rumble. We were going, right, okay, there's a reason that Jey Uso won that match now. So WWE clearly have an idea of where they want to go with it. It's just about making sure that they do it right on the week-to-week programming, because I grow a bit weary that every promo might end up the same if it's Gunther and Jey just every week Jey going, I know I can beat you, and Gunther going, no you can't. Like, they can't do that for the next 10 weeks, so they need to think it out properly. I don't know about you, Billy, I was convinced that Jey winning it actually was going to lead to some some tomfoolery, maybe to do with Dwayne, maybe to do with Roman, maybe to do with something, but it seems like, no, this is it. It is Jey going to be getting his moment. So,
we cannot worry about The Rock coming back. We've got lots of times. It could be a story of self-confidence. They could be main event Jey Uso turning around and going like, but am I really the main event?
Yeah.
Am I the world champion? I've not been able to beat this guy. I have. In fact, only one person has definitively done it. Well, two. One's the world's heavyweight champion. One is the WWE champion. And the other one is Sami Zayn, who he's close friends with. Are we going to see a little exploration of him and Sami Zayn? There's a lot of interaction going into potential WrestleMania. So I want to see the story, man. Give me the story. You and I as wrestling fans, the diehard wrestling fans, we know that'll be a great match. We know that.
I'm so glad that you've said it, Billy, because I think the one thing that I just want to urge from all these people who are desperate to hate and not give it a chance is, this is wrestling. And what we have learned from wrestling so many times before is stay with it, bear with it, and you might get surprised. And if you don't, you don't. Fair enough. But it's a sport that's catered. It's a product that is catered not just to one particular person or one particular group of people. It's trying to cater for everybody. And the fact of the matter is, for the casual viewer, Jey Uso is big money. So trust it, watch it, and let the story develop before you jump to your foregone conclusion. That's the one thing that I would just like to urge.
Absolutely. So I'm my gnaw to kick off is the hatred towards the Royal Rumble. We're meant to enjoy these things. Those stadiums and the football grounds all around the UK would be fucking dead if we knew what the result was going to be every week.
Yeah.
No one would go. No one would care. That's the reason why we watch wrestling. I was delighted to see Jey Uso. Do you know, I will say the fact they've got so many interacting stories right now. I mean, if it had been, as for the Charlotte thing, I think that's a little trickier and I can appreciate it. But again, I no issue with Charlotte winning. I had no issue with Charlotte winning. I am kind of like, okay, the fans, she's such a natural heel. Yeah. I mean, so was her dad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Flair Rick had face runs, certainly.
Yep.
But he was always a heel. He's a bit of a cocky arsehole. I mean,
it resembles his real life sort of.
It resembles the real life. You're exactly right. Yeah. So, and his daughter is so good in that role. And when someone is so fucking good, it's hard to cheer them. It is hard to cheer them. It's like, I'm going to come out here and beat such and such for the title of WrestleMania. Yeah, you probably will. you probably will. So they've booked themselves to a little bit of a corner with that one. Maybe we could see some shenanigans in the women's division. Maybe we could see I can't really see it now. I was going to say maybe we'll see the famous 4 horsewomen, 4 corners match, but it's unlikely we're going to see that. There's a lot we could do. With Charlotte Flair being the Royal Rumble winner. We haven't seen Becky come back.
Surprised by that.
You think about it. A 4 post women's title match at WrestleMania, Becky, Bayley, Charlotte, and maybe you could throw an Io Sky in there, for whom there is a lot of support behind. Man,
Io feels like Io's in that same position right now. Well, not to the same extent, of course, because the Yes movement was, of course, massive, huge. But she's in that same situation where I think she could be in a match like that at WrestleMania purely just from the fans demanding it to happen. Yeah. She's so loved by the fans, and rightly so, because she's so good. So where WWE love to put their spotlight on the trusted, the tried and tested main eventers of Charlotte, Becky, and Bayley, as you said, and get women like that, I can almost see Io getting shoved in through crowd forcing her way in there, and I hope they do. Let your voice be known, because she's so good.
That's it. And as for all the other matches, ladder match, fantastic. Absolutely loved it.
Oh, amazing.
Tag match, I thought was really good as well. My only problem is the Motor City Machine Guns are being clearly pushed as the big face favourites of the tag team division. But I think there's still a little bit of a disconnect there, because I don't feel like the WWE fans know them yet.
Well, do you know what's funny? The tag match actually kind of leads into my gnaw for the week.
Oh, lovely. Would you like to get your gnaw done?
Let's just get my gnaw out the way, because I'm assuming are we only doing one eye and one gnaw this week.
Why not? We'll be here all day otherwise.
Right. So my gnaw. Well, actually, I have 2 gnaws, but we'll get on to the other one at some point.
A mini gnaw. I'm happy if you want to tack a mini gnaw onto it.
So one of my big no's, and I made this a no after the Survivor Series podcast we done.
Okay.
WWE need to sort out the timings in these pay-per-views. I cannot stress this enough. We are wasting so much time on nonsense that we don't need to. I don't care how many celebrities are sitting at ringside. I've seen these pre-match graphics. The numbers behind the Royal Rumble, you've showed us it 6 times tonight across all your programs. I've seen it every program you've put on this week. I do not need 25-minute breaks between matches. Do you know how long the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY match went on for, Billy?
20 minutes.
14 minutes.
Fuck, really?
2 out of 3 falls, 14 minutes. How can you justify giving a 2 out of 3 falls match 14 minutes? That's 14 minutes is sometimes one fall.
That's a fall every 5 minutes?
Yeah, just under 5. So you're meant to be telling me we're to believe that 2 of the best tag teams of all time, by the way, are wrapping up 3 falls in under 5 minutes each? No, it's just not believable for me. And I wanted that match. I went in with this expectation. I said it last week on the show. I said this could be the best tag team match on a pay-per-view for so many years. And don't get me wrong, I don't think it was terrible, but it let me down because I thought it could have been so much better.
That's a match that should have got saved. You see, rather than only give it 14 minutes, you could have saved that. That could have been the main event on SmackDown. That could have been the main event on, well, not Monday Night Raw. It could have been the main event of SmackDown. Give it a couple of weeks build up and people will be into that. Because remember, folks, anyone watching at home, for anyone that's a hater of the SmackDown and what have you, they need to build main events on those shows so people tune in. For people to tune in.
A lot of people watch every week.
That's fair. That's fair. I thought it was harmless. I didn't see the point of the best 2 out of 3 falls, apart from obviously Street Profits to turn heel, which
that was the thing. The ending ruined it for me as well. I thought it was really flat. Yeah, I didn't like it. I don't think that they had to get them involved on the night. They could have saved that, surely. I know it was to cost Motor City Machine Guns or whatever. And I'm not even convinced that it's a full-on heel turn either, because they tried it before with Bobby Lashley. They put them heel. The crowd just loved Bobby too much, and probably the Street Profits, so it never really worked. They very quickly flipped him back to being face. And I don't think that this thing that happened at the Royal Rumble was purely out of heel action. I think it was more just the frustration of the situation they're in general. I don't think it's targeted towards any faces or heels. It could be anyone. So I don't know. I just think that it was just such a letdown, Billy, and it was so rushed, and that's what annoys me. It's the 4 guys in the ring who put on the match. Nothing against them. Great guys. They done their best in the ring, but they were so rushed for time. They gave more time to tell us that fucking that Indiana Pacers player was sitting at ringside again, and I just, for me, it was just such a waste.
Spent more time barking on about Pat McAfee playing football 20 years ago.
Dedicated a good 5 minutes to showing us his stats, and I'm like, we're watching wrestling. I love NFL. I'm prepped here for the Super Bowl on Sunday, as you can see. But holy moly.
I don't even think he played that many games when it comes down to
it. He was a kicker.
Ryan, do you want to get your second nod just now, or shall I indulge in an eye?
Do you know what? I'll get my moaning out the way. Fine, let's just get all my moaning out the way. Let me empty out my system. What's your thoughts on this proposed plan for the main event of WrestleMania, the triple threat between Seth Punk and Roman Reigns?
Right. Okay. Oh, God.
It seems like a very, let's keep everyone happy.
Everyone is deserving to be in that match. The first thing I think of, well, that's not going to be the main event.
Easy.
Or is it? I can't see it unless one of those gentlemen take the title from Cody, which would be mental, but it's not impossible. What would be the... I don't get it. I don't quite get it, to be honest. Punk and Seth have great chemistry. Punk and Roman would be fantastic. I don't think we've seen that in an issue. I mean, obviously there's still issues between Seth and then Roman. So from a dynamics point of view, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if it's a WrestleMania headline match. I mean, that's kind of where I come from. I'm not offended by it. I just kind of like, oh.
You've summed it up pretty nicely.
I mean, I'm not. I'd rather see any of those combinations in solo matches.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Look, listen, I feel like this is a situation where, and people will tie this back to Jay winning the Rumble, and they'll go, well, this is all because Jay won the Rumble, and we'll find ourselves in this position. I'm like, okay, that might be true, but strictly speaking,
never winning the Rumble. Punk was
well, like, even strictly speaking, right, even if that's the case, even if Jay winning the Rumble has put the plans up in the air, there's still so many different routes that they could have went down to have Rollins and Reigns, Punk and Rollins, Punk and Reigns. Jay winning the Rumble doesn't necessarily mean that, he's put a spanner in the works of every plan that was there. I just think that this match feels a bit pointless when there's nothing huge on the line about it. Like, what does the winner of this match actually get? Because it's not exactly a blood feud between, so if Punk was to face Roman, you've got the whole thing where it's like, okay, this ultimately decides who's the top dog at the minute. Paul Heyman's heavily involved. It's a big match. It's the generations colliding. If you've got Rollins and Roman, it's them finally meeting at WrestleMania. It's never been done. Obviously goes all the way back to the Shield. There's stories in all the individual matches, but for the three men to be in the same ring, I don't know, whoever wins it, it's just like, oh, okay. And then it's on to Raw again the next night. Yeah. I don't like the idea of that triple threat. I don't hate it. If it's what happens, it happens, right? I love all three as performers. Punk's obviously my favourite of all time, essentially. I love them all as individual performers, but I just feel like that triple threat that could potentially happen, it seems to be in the dirt sheets that it's happening. I don't know. I just think that it needs more.
Well, I think Alexa Bliss's return has taught us one thing. We shouldn't listen to rumour.
Yeah, exactly. And Triple H said that, didn't he? I think that's one thing that people... Yeah, Triple H literally said it right after the Rumble. He said, but the dirt sheet says that she wasn't coming back. Don't listen to the dirt sheets. So I'm trying my best to ignore the dirt sheets.
But it's hard not to. It's hard not to.
It's hard to not to listen to them, and it's also hard to look past it because it looks like it could be the route they go down.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll just, once again, maybe I've got to practice what I preach. Trust the storytelling and see what happens come Mania. But right now, Billy, it's a wee bit of a no for me.
Yeah, I got to admit I'm not excited about it unless they add something on like a loser leaves WWE or something, or there's no title that I could see that they would make a difference. Winner gets the world title shot at SummerSlam. Like, none of that makes sense because it's fucking WrestleMania, right?
It's WrestleMania,
isn't it? Again, there could be a lot of storytelling between now and then. They've sowed seeds of Seth and Roman getting together again. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Roman has the clause that he gets the WrestleMania main event, or he can get a rematch at WrestleMania, or if there's some shit like that, and that's where Punk cashes in his favor. Well, yeah, I know that Roman Reigns has his rematch clause, but I
want the title match. Give me the title match.
I want the title. Sorry, I just had kids screaming in the background, and I was wondering.
Somebody else doesn't like the potential triple threat at WrestleMania.
Somebody's not just. Some of us are still upset about John Moxley leaving. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we'll dodge the bullet on that one, I would argue. Right, I'm going to get to one of my eyes.
Yes, please, cheer us up.
It's a negative and it's a positive at the same time.
Okay.
Because Juke Hudson was just released from NXT. And I've always been a bit of a fan of Juke Hudson, purely from the fact is there's a guy that everything you've given him, he's run with. Everything that guy's done, he's been funny, he's been entertaining, he's been a monster, he's been a killer, he's sold, he's done everything for everyone else. And apparently Duke was released in early January. And if you get a chance, he has already put up a promo kind of exploring what happens next. Wrestling with Identity, which is a fake podcast of him interviewing himself. He's in a dark shirt being an asshole wrestling podcast host, interviewing white Duke Hudson, not a million miles away from what Mr. Chase was wearing on NXT not too long ago. I saw his promo and immediately, I'd always been kind of on the fence a little bit. Duke maybe a little bit going like, he's never really got there. He's going to get there. He's going to get there. When I saw this, I went, that they should have put this on NXT.
How is that not an NXT?
They should
have. Why? What? Because I don't doubt in my mind he pitched something creative. He looks like a guy who's clearly a very creative mind. It's not like he's just came up with that on the fly. He's probably been thinking of something along those lines for a while. That was incredible. And
brilliant.
Yeah, they've quietly released him.
And that's it. Duke, for me, has become purely based off that promo, the wrestling with identity. I want to see the next episode.
Yeah,
I thought it was fucking brilliant. And shame on WWE for not being able to find someone. And that video alone, like whoever it is, should be getting on the phone and getting them back.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Purely based on that, we've made a mistake. Come on back. If this is the type of thing that you can bring to our product, come on back.
I just don't get what went through whoever's decision it was to release him, right? I don't get what's went through their mind. Clearly the Chase U stuff had ran its course, right? No doubt about it. It was going on.
I agree with that to a degree, but they kind of still plant the seeds like there's another bit to it.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily. Let me rephrase it. I don't think it's necessarily the performer's fault. I don't think it's Andre Chase or Juke Hudson's fault that it ran its course. I think it was the direction that WWE kept breaking them up and teasing them breaking up, and they just done it one too many times to the point where you're like, when is it actually going to end, and how does it end? So I don't think it was their fault. I think that WWE, through its bad creative direction with it, had made it run its course. But even if it was ran its course or not, depending on what your opinion is, whose decision, once breaking them up, had went, okay, it's time to release Juke Hudson? Because clearly he had something in the locker. Well,
how did that come across someone's table? Do you know who we need to get rid of? Duke Hudson. He's not even been a lot of other releases. I can think of other people, this is going to make me sound cold and heartless, that are on that roster, and I go, not really. I mean...
Plenty.
If they did turn around and said, well, listen, we're releasing him from his NXT full-time deal. We're putting him on a WWE ID program, and we're going to let him go and wrestle. We're going to let him wrestle in other places. We're going to let him get a bit more experience. We're going to send him to some places, and then we're going to bring him back. That I would make sense. Now, I don't know if it's a case of they're just not pulling back the curtain enough. Maybe they're just not doing it. I mean, they've got Kylie Rae on a contract that everyone forgets about, and Kylie Rae formerly wrestled with TNA, NWA, AEW. She's been on the radar WWE for a while. Maybe that's what they're doing. They're going, Duke, we need you to get more experience. Or maybe they're not. Maybe they're not. This is an opportunity for this young man to really pick himself up. But where do you go? Do you go to AEW? I don't think so. I don't think that's the place to make a name for yourself.
Listen, what Juke Hudson should be doing, Juke Hudson should be looking at what...
Whatever his name's going to be, I should say, as well. We can't...
Yeah, sorry, yeah, exactly. But Juke Hudson should be looking at what Matt Cardona has done, what Nick Nemeth has done, what these guys who've been released from WWE have done, and they've taken a creative chance on themselves, and it's really paid off. They're just two examples, especially Cardona. There's far more examples of that. We know that. Cody Rhodes is technically one of these guys.
There we go.
Not technically, he is one of these guys. So I'm not saying that Duke Hudson is going to be the next Cody. I'm not saying he's even going to be the next Matt Cardona, but what I'm saying is there is enough creativity there to certainly suggest that he should chance on himself and not another company booking him and handling him, because he's clearly got a mind for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. I'm just seeing, I don't think AEW is in the right place just now. I think TNA is to do with WWE. I mean, hell, if they turned around and went, it's part of the WWE ID, we're sending them to work and whatever. I don't know. I don't know how it works. It could all be an elaborate angle for all we fucking know.
Can I also add in, and this was but did you see a shout out to our good friend Simon Cassidy? His tweet was brilliant, by the way. I don't know if you've seen it, but he said, the next time you debate filming a fucking promo in your car as an independent wrestler, consider that this is the kind of content that you should be trying to achieve. And I know that, and Simon also says this in his tweet, I know that sometimes you don't have the budget to go out there and do things like this. It's not as if every independent wrestler is blessed with high quality cameras and a studio to film in or whatever, but it's not free. Thinking creatively, in the words of Simon, is free. So don't sit in your car with horrible lighting filming a vertical fucking promo that looks like a shite TikTok. Go and challenge and be creative and do something different, because it's not that hard.
I would say to wrestlers out there, aspiring and otherwise, somebody that's a bit of a guerrilla filmmaker, you will be surprised how much you can do with very little, but with a lot of creativity.
You can do what Duke Hudson done, you can do with a phone.
You can do with a phone. You can buy loan. I mean, even some of the little mics that plug into your iPhones, the little lapel mics are really good quality. You can get yourself a road. You'd be surprised what you can do. And it was the reason I'm putting it as an I there is a fantastic example because it immediately made me go, I am keeping tabs on Juke Hudson.
Yeah.
I am keeping tabs on this young man. And if you are leaving a company and people are going, oh, that's really good, that makes it look like everyone made a mistake. And that ain't going to be a bad thing. That young boy, the young man, I know he's not a young man. Even at that, even him being able to talk about what people have said to him, showing his amazingly thick skin. Oh, you know, Rhea watched you wrestle and she's a megastar. Who the fuck was the other? Oh, Brawny.
Bronson. Big Brawny Reed.
Like Brawny's jumping off the cage. And you go, yep, all great stuff, all great stuff. Brawny with a second wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm just saying, Uncle Paul, if you want to look at it. I just thought it was really good, positive out of a negative, and I'm giving it a massive high. If you are a more casual wrestling fan, you might not know who Juke Hudson is, but go and watch the promo, man. It was really good. It was really, really good, and he did a great job with it, and it will make you go, I want to keep tabs on this guy, and that's what it is. That's what it is. I want to keep tabs on him. Right, let's get on to, a couple of things I want to talk about the Royal Rumble just quickly. It's going to be a really weird one. Do you think big entrances in the middle of the Rumble is a bit much?
So, who are we talking about specifically here? Charlotte. Yes.
Her coming out was big, but see stopping and having fireworks. Does anyone else think that just seems a little dumb? Seems like a little piss takey?
I think this did it happen with Cody when he returned? Maybe I can't remember. I think it's just a part of this whole new presentation. They're really prioritizing presentation now, aren't they? It's one of the biggest things that's changed since Triple H has taken over, since TKO have become a thing. Presentation is huge, and I think that's why they do it. But the whole element of the Royal Rumble is meant to be, right, get to the ring, move your arse, surprise us, and get going. And seeing her just stroll down there, I'm like, right, well, this is taking an age. Get to the ring, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's daft.
It's a peeve more than anything. But I did remember thinking, like, pyro now? It just seems a bit odd.
It never used to happen much back in the day.
No.
You think of some of the biggest Rumble returns of all time. John Cena in 2008, he very simply walked out and showed himself. Edge in 2010 came out, nothing out of the ordinary, a bit similar to his normal entrance, but didn't take an age to get to the ring.
Yeah.
I think, you go back in time and people just used to get on with it, and now they really do like to rip it. And I'm like, once again, we're taking time out of the night from other matches to give them entrances like this. We don't need it. The return of them being back is good enough.
I just found that a little cringe. A little cringe. The reaction was like, I mean, it might be different if you're there going, oh, there's Charlotte Flair. Ooh, fireworks. All right, now she's like, I don't know how I'd respond to it live. I just found it a bit weird. It's like, it's up there with when Jeff Hardy came out to rescue his brother and he stopped to have a wee dance.
Oh, he gave it the whole, they gave it the whole, on the stage, like, gave it the whole thing,
That's an odd thing to do. You know what I mean?
I think this is the thing, right? Wrestling is very much, the curtain's gone, isn't it? It's not even like we're peeking behind the curtain anymore. The curtain has fell. The curtain draped a long time ago. It's gone.
I've got another pet peeve.
I'll have it, right, okay, go on.
The pre-show, they're talking about Rumble appearances, and Michael Cole is talking about it, right? Talking about him, and he said, I took a hell of a bump there. And then when it moved on really fast, and I remember going like, Michael, I don't think that was meant to come out your mouth, Michael. So
I'm surprised you picked up on that. I know exactly what part of the show. Maybe it's because I was in the company of pals and we were just talking over it at the time. But I know exactly what part of the pre-show you're talking about, and I just did not notice.
Here's the thing, man. Like, I'm not a wrestler.
That'll be you and Sunday at the Square Go.
I have huge respect for wrestling, and as a wrestling commentator, I would never use the phrase "bump." on the live broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it might slip out your mouth in the sense that, but it's never like, I think that I have maybe used the word bump on commentary before, but not strictly going like, oh, he's just took some bump, you know. I think
he's been training practicing that flip bump there for ages.
Yeah, I think it's like slipped out in different contexts, not quite like that, but I think that's, you've noticed that, haven't you, how relaxed they are now with the curtain just being gone, and like,
yeah.
I don't know, I kind of hate it. At the same time, it's 2025, and I'm like, right, who are we trying to fucking kid on here? Like, we know what's happening, but yeah, I didn't notice it.
The curtain's there for a reason, right? In some respects, like, it's like I've said before, you're watching a movie, you're watching like the new Gladiator movie, you know that's not actually Rome, right?
Oh, yes,
we know that. We're there to watch a story, be entertained. It would be pretty bad if the star, you know, Denzel Washington's looking to the head and went, "This isn't a real woman's seed." Do you know, it would be a bit weird. And then stop to give you a lecture on that. I remember years and years ago at one of the Shug's house parties, we were commentating on it for ICW. So it was a loser leaves ICW, a DCT. It was title versus DCT leaving.
I think I was there that night.
Actually,
I was there.
So, that's the story we're telling, right?
Yeah.
Now, I remember seeing a review, and I don't pay attention to reviews of wrestling shows. Like, I really, really don't. And someone actually mentioned, like, Billy Kirkwood insulting our intelligence, saying about ECTs being on, and part of me, and I remember not being mad because, like, they're having a dig, but it was the reason for it. It's like, so for telling people what the wrestling storyline is, that's your problem.
People love them on, Billy.
Right, and it was just the weird. It's like, but you're meant to be a reviewer of wrestling shows.
Yes.
And you just, and you get that would be a wrestling commentator's job. Like, you know, a wrestler is meant to react when someone hits them, right? Yep. So, are you saying by that respect, like, well, you know, insulting our intelligence? I mean, it's not like, what? It was such a weird reaction. And the reason I bring it up is like, fuck, man, enjoy the ride. Like,
yeah.
If you are that jaded with it, if you are that looking under the hood and what have you, look, man, I do stand up all the time, and I gig with some really good friends, and I know for a fact that they have said those jokes before. Right, I have gigged with them and they have said those jokes.
Oh, yeah.
How bad would it be if I stood up and went, just so everybody knows, he's not making up. He wrote that months ago. He doesn't. He's not even with that girl anymore. He's not even with that girl anymore.
Ruined the whole illusion.
Do you know? It's like it's like magicians pretend. Oh, look at this. Go, oh, buddy. Yep. They rehearsed that. I hate breaking it to you. They fucking rehearsed that. And I just found it so weird. So I'm not having to go to Michael Cole, just having a bit of fun. Certainly with Pat McElvey and that type of thing. But it just reminds me, sometimes we don't need to worry about pulling the curtain back too much. Enjoy it. Like, you and your pals were having a night, talking about wrestling, having snacks, having drinks, having a good time, right? That's what it's meant to be. I'm sure sometimes, like, you can have conversations about, like, oh, you know, this wrestler's coming in, or blah, blah, blah. Do you remember that? Or that looks shite, and blah, blah, blah. I can just enjoy it, man. It really pisses me off that people are incapable of enjoying something that they're meant to love.
Well, that's been the story of the whole week, Billy.
That's been the story of the whole week.
That's been the story of the whole week, isn't it? You think? Do you know what always gets what always grabs my attention the most, and what really gets in my gears? See if you don't like it that much. See if Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble or whatever it is that's pissed you off that much is done to you. Stop fucking watching then. Yes. Nobody's forcing you. Like, it's not that hard. I would also... people, but I like it. I love it. I've enjoyed it my whole life. I don't get so fucking petty about it.
See, the thing is as well, like, see if you don't like it. You don't like these at least 2.5 hours more of wrestling, other wrestling that you could go and focus on. Just pointing that out.
What would be and this is, do you know what, this actually leans really nicely into what my clown of the week was actually going to be. You know that it actually does. I know that's what I was going to say. I'm going to get and it goes like honk honk or something, you know, like wee fucking clown noise. But my clown of the week was so people, it was the IWC. My clown of the week was the IWC. I fucking hate the IWC, and I don't know if we technically count as it now that we have an internet podcast. I don't know.
IWC.
I wouldn't count myself as part of the IWC. We're in the business, Billy. We're commentators. Anyway.
Business, mate, you know what I mean?
But seriously, so they all went and bombarded, like seconds after the Royal Rumble clips were posted on the WWE YouTube channel. Yeah. They went over and thumbsed it down. It was the most disliked Royal Rumble clips of all time. We don't like Charlotte. We don't like Jay. And I'm like, do you know what's so funny? And it's so true. If the WWE or AEW or any other company was booked by internet wrestling fans, the company would be out of business in a fucking week. Genuinely. You have got to, the whole... And this isn't me throwing shade at AEW. It's not, right? I'm trying my best not to sound like I'm hating on AEW here. But I think that there's a very clear reason as to why AEW has never got close to the heights of WWE, and that's been through very questionable and very... Tony Khan has leaned his booking at times, and even the diehard AEW fans can't deny this. Tony Khan has done a really bad job at trying to please the online community. Yeah. He's does it far too much. He's done it to the point where it has properly harmed AEW.
We've seen some improvements since the start of the year.
Of course. Oh yeah, 100%. There's no denying that. You take the good and the bad, but at times over the last... So AEW's been around for, 5 years now? Over that 5 years, there has been one too many occasions where he has tried to appease people online. And what that has led to is AEW... And this isn't a shot. I've not got a problem with it. Good. I hope AEW succeeds and thrives.
We very much.
But there is a reason that WWE just sold 65,000 tickets for a Royal Rumble, and there's a reason why AEW are having to go to smaller venues, because Triple H knows what to do for a casual viewer, and whether you like it or not, wrestling is always going to be catered to the casual viewers, to the way that they make money, and to the way to try and have more fun. If Jey Uso can only do 5 or 6 moves, it doesn't matter, because he's the most entertaining man they have on their roster, and he appeals to the casuals. So if that's what happens, that's what happens. So the IWC throwing their toys at the pram is going to change nothing.
Exactly. And the other side of things that annoys me a little bit, the IWC, and I'm actually throwing shade at someone who would be livid that I'm calling him as being part of the IWC mentality. I'm fucking throwing our toys at the pram here. What are we doing? Is MGF?
Yeah.
MGF? Because I saw a video at the weekend, and it was MGF moaning about remember we used to draw crowds like that? Remember we used to draw crowds like that to a fan? Remember we used to draw crowds like that? And part of me was thinking, you're paid by that company. You're paid by that,
and you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I would be waiting behind it. MGF spunked through 5 years worth of wrestling storylines in a year, in a fucking calendar year. And whether that is Tony's fault, and you seem to be opinionated enough, Max, that in order that you've got a little bit of stroke around there, spunked through. Spaffed it up the fucking wall, and now people are turning around and calling you stale, and you're trolling them. Oh, that's what it is. I'll do Macho Man. I totally get what you're doing, but you have to appreciate that you're also part of the fucking problem as well. I am a massive MGF fan, and I think we've only seen the start, the kernels of what this man can do. But he's not the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and from what I can see, is nowhere fucking near it.
No, it's not going to be anytime soon. No way.
Not going to be anytime soon. So, what are you then? And that's the problem.
I would love to see the answer to that question. But you know what you'd get? You'd get the generic, I'm the guy that draws $1 million and blah, blah, blah.
You call me fat, Scottish, stupid. I can come up with 101 different things. When you've been a comedian for 20 years and you're not funny, well, I've got a bunch of awards and a nomination for a Sir Billy Connolly Award. You can go fuck yourself. But what you do know, I pay my taxes on how funny I am, but what I do know is and it's not an attack. I saw the video and I did think that's bullshit. That's bullshit from a man that has...
And he's not the first guy to be guilty of that either side of the company divide. We've seen plenty of guys in WWE do it. Christ, we've seen my favourite of all time, CM Punk, has arguably been guilty of things like this before.
Yeah.
We've seen MJF's not the first and he won't be the last, but at least try and be proactive about it rather than, I don't know, making videos and crying about it on Twitter.
For me, it just wasn't a good look, and I didn't like it. It's Tony Khan. Tony Khan needs to get those guys in order, whether it is a come to Jesus meeting and going like, you're fucking, no pun intended, but you need to be fucking all in.
Yeah.
You're being sent out as a representative. I don't like look, if I'm doing a gig, man, I don't like people bitching and moaning and that's all they spend their fucking life doing. I don't particularly like it at wrestling events either. Everyone's guilty of wanting to moan and a bitch and all that type of thing. But if you're being counterproductive, you're a fucking problem.
Yeah.
You are an actual fucking problem. So, and I'm sure MJF or any of the guys that have done it could turn around and go, well, we're being it's part of the gimmick, you see. I mean, why would I not be making fun of that? It's what people are talking about. Who's talking about it? Who's talking about it? The IWC you claim to hate?
That's it, Billy, isn't it? It's like at the end of the day, and this is what annoys me because I love the thought, and this is what WWE do so well at the minute. I think WWE do this job well in not catering for the IWC, so they can genuinely knock back any of those allegations. If they cared about what the IWC said, Jey Uso wouldn't be anywhere near the Royal Rumble, so they have a leg to stand on. But when it comes to MJF and when it comes to Tony Khan and when it comes to guys like that, they claim that they don't care, but then when they do something that they're raving about, they're the first ones to go, oh, well, see, what I'm doing's working. Like, you claim not to care what they say, so it's one or the other. And yeah, I'm quite enjoying the outrage since the Royal Rumble. Honestly, part of it, 50% of me can't stand it and makes me want to delete my Twitter, but the other 50% makes me like the IWC are slowly turning me into a big Jey Uso fan. I can't believe it.
maybe that's the plan all along. For me, like, and I hate actually signaling MJF, but I saw that video and it really pissed me off. So I hope it's all a work. I'm sure it is. And if it is a work, you've worked me, and that's absolutely fine. I just don't see what happens at the end. I just don't see how you turn that into an advantage. For me, it was unprofessional. There should have been another way to do that. Whatever you're trying to achieve, there should have been another way of doing that. I wouldn't go on and bite the hand that feeds me. I wouldn't go on and do that. And whether this is your way of trying to get fired or something like that, or learn that Tony Khan will just send your punk ass home for a couple of years.
Well, it's too late now, Billy. He's got the tattoo in his leg.
And he got a tattoo, mate. Did he get a tattoo? So I hope they can sort. I really hope they can sort that out. You should always be all swimming in the same direction. And I mean that in any type of fucking creative thing, man. It's just fucking ridiculous. If anyone, I don't like, it's like when you see people giving run-throughs and stuff and you just imagine, like, shut the fuck up. Anyway, that made me genuinely mad there for a second, so I'm going to move the fuck up. So I agree with you. I think yours is a great Clown of the Week. A great climb.
Thank you, Billy. I do try my best. It is one of my favourite times of the week.
Shall we get on to some questions?
Yes, let's do this. Let's get this show on the road.
I've got one here for you. This has been sent in by Flying V Tattoo Studio.
Oh, nice.
Who have said, love the chat about overusing the middle finger. Oh, you must be a bad guy. He said, spot on, something I noticed that people do in a cage match is climb to the top of the cage during an entrance. Get done. That's it. I actually quite like that. Yeah,
sounds like that clip of that famous clip of Lemmy when he's get fucking done. That's what it reminds me. It's true, isn't it? Like, you know, like, I can't. Did it happen at War Games? I don't know. I don't think it. Maybe it did. Maybe like Tama Tonga was sitting up there or something like that. But aye, like if it's a one-on-one cage match and somebody's at the top of the cage, I'm like, oh, get done. Move.
What he's said is it's supposed to look intimidating. Stand at the bottom and look up like, holy fuck, maybe try and shake it. Build to it. People want to buy into the thought of you going up. Imagine seeing a backstage segment of Hogan lifting Andre before their Mania match. Now we know
that is that's a really good point. I guess nowadays, I think the only thing that I could say to caveat that would be is like nowadays in wrestling, I think that we're all, when the steel cage match first arrived years ago, there was a novelty surrounding it that, oh wow, nowadays I don't think it carries the same aura. We've seen so many different variations. I think you've got Hell in a Cell, you've got War Games, you've got other companies who do different twists. So I think the whole, right, I think the novelty's maybe worn off of like, these guys can easily climb this cage. It's not a hard feat, but I 100% agree with the principle of what your man here is saying. I think that there is a really good point to be made of, well, that's meant to be the special moment. So if you see them climb it, but while they're entering or whatever,
it's really easy, and it's really easy.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like almost climbing the ladder, isn't it? Because in WWE especially, we've got used to. I guess in wrestling altogether, it's not a WWE thing, and I get why they do it. It's to sell the match. You want to sell the struggle, but you see them climbing this ladder like 2 miles an hour. So when you see them climb the cage like that, when they've already showed you at the start of the match that they can climb it in seconds, you're like, well, 5 minutes ago you could climb it rapid, so what's changed?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things like never get a wrestler around to decorate. You're going to be there for fucking ever. She's like, God, how am I ever getting up
that
here?
Ladder.
Then the other decorator,
second last rung, and then they fall off.
The other decorator's pulling them down. And just like, get off me, we're trying to decorate. It's a great question, and it is addressing maybe one of the things we need to look at with storytelling, but a little bit of the order. Give us back a little bit of the order. Then I've got one last question. This has been sent in by Paul Martin, who is a big fan of yours. Do you know Paul? Yes. Paul Martin Belts?
Yes, Paul is a fantastic creator of you need to check out his YouTube channel, Billy, by the way.
Really?
Some of his work is sensational. Like the belts this man has made over the years. Genuinely check out his YouTube channel.
I love it.
You'd really love it.
I love it. We'll be in touch. Paul's question is this: what wrestlers' names or moves do you think Brendan Rodgers would mispronounce most spectacularly?
I seen this question earlier, and I've been racking my brains trying to think. Do you need any context for this? Because so essentially, right, we have this player. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, right? We have a player called Jota, right? Portuguese, very simple name to say. So Jota, Jota. And when Brendan Rodgers first arrived at Celtic, Jota had just left. But he's now back, of course. He just returned. But he left at the time when Rodgers got here. And when he got asked about Jota leaving the club, Brendan Rodgers sat down and says, it's a wee shame that Yoto has had to leave. And like everybody was like, Yoto? I was like, how? And it was like, nothing. He didn't acknowledge the mistake. We went on for years wondering, why the fuck did he call him Yoto? And then, so Jota returns, and we're all waiting. We're like, oh my God, he's going to call him Yoto again. This is brilliant. Yoto's returning. And then he just acts like nothing happened and calls him Jota. Like, what?
So, there had a day, right, where somebody went, do you know something, Brendan, we're really excited that Jota's going to be coming back. And he was like, do you mean coming back? Who's that? And he went, who's that? Yeah, you have been mispronouncing it. It's actually Jota. You've been mispronouncing it for a while. And he's just went, fuck's sake. Why would nobody tell me that? Why did you let me go in there and get that wrong all those times?
It's so funny. It just sat there for like the best part of 2 years. You're thinking, wonder if you'll ever call him Yoto again, and then just pretended like nothing happened.
We're so excited to be back playing at Parkhead. And it's Parkhead. It's Parkhead. It says there, It's Parkhead.
I couldn't think of any wrestling moves that he'd mispronounced. Like, we've heard some wild mispronunciations over the years from commentators and ring announcers. I think that's what made me. That's what made me think. This question made me think of that the most. Do you know what came to my head? Right, take Brendan Rodgers away for a minute. Do you remember the time where Eva Marie was asked to do ring announcing?
Oh, very vaguely, yes.
She done it for like one night on Monday Night Raw, and they made a Total Divas episode out of it, right? And she was introducing 3MB. So out comes Heath Slater, Drew, and Jinder Mahal. And she gives it the whole introducing Heath Slater, Drew McIntyre, and Ginger Mahal. And and backstage, it shows you the interaction backstage afterwards, and Jinder is losing it at her. He's like, who is Ginger Mahal? Why did you call me Ginger Mahal? Like, it's fucking hilarious.
That almost sounds like a setup. It's like, you sure McIntyre didn't have anything to do with that?
Well, the fact it was on Total Divas gives me a feeling that it was premeditated, but it was pretty fucking funny.
Ginger Mahal. If there isn't a wrestler out there, if there is a young Asian wrestler that wants to get into wrestling and has a bit of a sense of humour about cultural differences, call yourself Ginger Mahal, man. You have just sold a whole bunch of Iron Brew based t-shirts. That I can tell you.
Something to live off.
And there's an extra part of that question. Failing that, if Big Match John wins the title at 17, with 17 title before his final match, should he bring back the modern logo spinner belt?
Yes. I would love it. Just for him, though. Just for his reign, and then it goes back to being the belt that whatever it should be. Do you know what, Billy? I said this about the Winged Eagle. I want any excuse to get rid of the belt that it is just now.
I don't like it.
So even if it was like, so if Cena was to win the title, change it to the spinner, and then when he lost it, they brought the new belt out, whatever it would be, I would be a big fan of that. I heard, shout out to the boys at What Culture. I watched their afternoon news, afternoon news, and Andy Murray is on there, a fellow Scot in exile. Good boy, Andy. Tennis player?
No, the other one. I know two. There are only two Andy Murrays. One likes wrestling. But he had a really good way of booking Cena's potential run, so he doesn't win the world title. He's still got something like 34 matches to go. He said he's doing 36. He's still got like 34 left to go. And he said that he does not win the world title until his last night. I've fantasy booked something similar of my own. And I have to admit, part of me went like, that would make a lot of sense.
Imagine this, right? This is what me and my mates came up with. Imagine he wins it in his last night, right? He's won it. Everybody's crying. The confetti's going off.
We'll all be going. We'll all be greeting.
Everybody's greeting, and then suddenly, Dominic Mysterio, Mr. Money in the Bank, comes out, cashes in his briefcase, leaves Cena lying on his back as the show goes off the air, and Dominic Mysterio has solidified himself as the biggest heel in the history of professional wrestling.
I love it. I love it. Do it, you cowards. Or, I mean, if they're going to do it the safe way, I guess Cena wins the title in his final night. They hold up the title for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Title for the Rumble. You could do that.
Yeah,
you know
that would be. I think that would be nice in the sense that it would change up the Rumble for a year. I like that in 2016 where it was like, right, the winner of the Rumble doesn't necessarily affect all the plans for WrestleMania. They're not going to book themselves into a corner sort of thing. I kind of like the idea of a wee year off of the Mania main event being solidified by the Rumble.
Yeah, and then those couple of months after it, when we're going like, right, so how are they going to get fucked out of this? Everyone keeps wondering about, is Dwayne going to turn up and change the route to? Yeah. I'll be honest, I don't think he is.
Listen, we know that we all know that Dwayne's not turning up this year now. I think there was actually a very public comment from Dwayne about Mania this year and how he was upset that it got out there that he wouldn't be at Mania 41.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we all kind of expected it after that disaster of his promo in the Raw Netflix premiere. I guess. I guess now we just need to wait and see when he decides to turn up if it's ahead of Mania 42, Billy.
Hey, if he's making a movie, he's making a movie. There's nothing can get done about it. That's his job now. So we're just going to have to accept
his job.
That. That's his job. That's his job. He does that, and he does a couple of shifts down Londis and Clydebank, I'm told. You know what I mean? He sometimes works the vape counter at racetrack as well.
Get the extra money in, you know?
He's there. Rhubarb and custard inside. It's no real smoking. Well, it's a guy that looks like him. He says he's The Rock anyway. But that's all we've got time for on this episode. Big wrestling weekend for us. There is going to be ICW's Square Go. Who knows what could happen? 30 individuals.
I'm buzzing.
Five weapons. One golden opportunity. My boy here getting the Ducks. Second year.
I'm hoping that we don't have any big disasters like last year. But,
you mean?
No idea. Here's my question though. Just before we end, who's your pick? Who's your pick this year? Who's winning?
Oh God! What a fucking question! What a fucking question!
Put you on the spot, haven't I? I don't know who mine is either.
Say like, oh, but he knows. You'd be surprised how much we do go. No, we don't want to know.
Aye. I love going in with the element of surprise. You know?
Fuck him. Like, we'll find out who it is. I'm not putting anybody else over. We're going to be doing that for like an hour and a half straight on the night.
Exactly.
So all you got to do is be nice. If you're a bad guy, don't forget to do this. So people know, and if you're a good guy, don't forget to.
You're gonna make me. I'm gonna laugh in commentary now if somebody gives it a fucking middle finger.
I'll just do my. Thing me. Who am I doing? Who am I doing? What am I doing? You know who I'm doing?
I know who you're doing. I'm not getting involved in any heat on this show.
I'm putting someone over. I am putting someone over.
I know you are, Billy. I know you are.
Who else can I do?
Who else can you do? I think, give it a... right, okay. I thought at first you were doing Randy Orton. I was like, Randy Orton's not going to be fucking there on Sunday.
You don't know. I've heard he's looking for shifts. He's coming in the rock shifts.
He's been off for a while, actually. He's been off for a while.
I'm in sick. Do you know what I mean? He thinks the DWP don't go all the way down to the garage in Glasgow. So don't forget, you can watch the show live on Triller Plus if you'd like to join us. It is sold out on the night, but we've also got tickets coming up to some ICW shows. But please join us on the night on Triller Plus. It's the best production crew in the business of independent pro wrestling, ICW, and it's always a great crowd. And who knows who'll turn up? Who fucking knows? We don't. For what it's worth, we do not. So it could be anybody. It could be anybody. Who knows? Maybe Juke Hudson will turn up. He's not going to turn up. It's pretty sure. To be honest. I mean, if he does, I think Bushwhacker Luke is more likely than Juke Hudson.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You never know. Maybe MJF will turn up and do whatever finisher he's got this week. And
Chris Jericho.
I just, nobody's ever came off bad for working with Chris Jericho.
Well,
apart from all the people that have worked with Chris Jericho for the last year.
Right, let's get this show on the road.
Burn it before we leave, boys. Burn it before we leave. Right.